From the Open Season Property Studio, welcome to SuperTalk Outdoors, where every single Monday at lunchtime we celebrate the world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi because we are the capital of the outdoors in America, especially this time of year. I want to thank you for joining us on the powerful SuperTalk Mississippi Radio Network. You can listen to SuperTalk Outdoors at supertalk.fm, Amazon Alexa, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, or on SuperTalk TV at C Spire TV. But some of you are watching the show on YouTube or Facebook or listening on your favorite podcast. We appreciate that too. As I remind you every week, we try to be there wherever, whenever you want to engage in the show, and we really appreciate that. We really love the feedback, and keep it coming, and continue to make your suggestions on future guests. We really appreciate that. It's September the 30th, 2024. Listen, all across the state of Mississippi, as farmers are finishing their harvest, the hunting communities out there getting their land ready, they're getting food plots planted. It's an exciting time of the year. You know, bow hunters are out there. We've just got the velvet season behind us. We'll get a report about that, incidentally, in the second half of the show. We're rolling all across the state of Mississippi. And I should also mention that the fishing on the Mississippi Gulf Coast has been absolutely incredible. My son Jourdan made a cast of his net yesterday and caught about 100 shrimp in one cast. He was going out to fish with his two kids, and one cast and loaded an ice chest full of live shrimp. It's that time of year, and when we don't have a lot of rain, you need a little bit of rain. That's important, actually. But when you don't have a lot of rain, the bait really begins to accumulate in the backwaters of coastal Mississippi, and that means that the fishing is going to be absolutely incredible. In fact, I touched base with a couple of my charter boat friends yesterday, and their businesses are rolling right now, and that is great to see. So, again, this is why we're the capital of outdoors in Mississippi. Speaking of whitetail deer hunting, William McKinley, head of the deer program for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks here in Mississippi, will be joining me in the second half. I'm wearing orange today. If you're listening on the radio, you can't see that, but take my word for it. I'm wearing orange today as a reminder that as we get out into the woods, putting up, bow stands or doing all the work that we do, man, always put safety first. I mean, I get a note about every other day from someone who says someone, just was going to make a quick correction in a tree stand, and they didn't put a safety strap on. They either fell 15 steps or they fell the last step. And sometimes missing that last step can be deadly, man, because you just, you're still going to hit the ground, and your head's going to hit, or something bad's going to happen. Pay attention, wear a safety strap. We'll talk more about that as we continue the show today. So that's what we're doing. So listen, in the first half of the show, I'm thrilled to have my friend back, one of the stars of the Primo Speak the Language podcast, Jourdan Blissett, someone I haven't caught up with him in a while, so I'm looking forward to visiting with him. Jourdan, how you doing, my friend?
Man, I'm doing good. Yeah, we've been full bore property improvement and food plot season the last 6 or 8 weeks now, so it's feel like I'm going real low on sleep.
Well, listen, you guys have a lot going on. First of all, obviously you're affiliated and have been working extensively with Open Season Properties, and you guys are doing well with that. I'm thrilled to have Open Season Properties as a primary sponsor of this show. I've watched you with your land improvement efforts. You regularly post pictures of you with your on a tractor doing some kind of work somewhere. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the Primo's Speak the Language podcast, you and Lake Pickle, you guys, once you acquired that, you hit the ground running, and you've had just a series of really great shows, man. I mean, for people who have not tuned in, they ought to. You can go to your favorite podcast platform and call it up, Speak the Language Podcast. And I think you'll be glad you did. I mean, there's a lot of focus on hunting from about every perspective, but you're doing a great job with that. It's a lot of fun. You guys are great together, Jourdan.
Yeah, we I guess we didn't really realize it until we kind of let the foot off the gas with the podcast. Like, we make a pretty good team. We need to try to do this again. And when Lake and I acquired the podcast, we wanted to make it emphasis more on the local culture. I mean, our broad audience is the Southeast, but most of our audience is in Mississippi. So we want to try to keep it as locally influenced as possible and try to make a difference in a positive way in the outdoors here.
Hey, well, what I found, of course, you guys had success with downloads all across the United States, even probably beyond that. But what's interesting is since Mississippi is leading in so many different ways in conservation, that I don't care where you're tuning in from, it's going to, a lot of the story is going to be applicable to you. And of course, a lot of people want to know, why is Mississippi the capital of the outdoors? And you're telling that story. I enjoyed, starting from the beginning, your conservation effort, our conservation efforts with Fannie Mae, et cetera. In this, not Fannie Mae, Fannie.
Cook.
Say that again.
Cook, Fannie Cook.
Yeah, Fannie Cook. I don't know why. Well, yeah, of course, Fannie Mae is the lending arm. But Fannie Cook, yeah, I mean, what a great story she is. I mean, the conversation you had with William McKinley, who's going to be joining me in the second half of the show, telling the story of deer conservation in this state. I mean, what a great story that is. But it's awesome being able to drill down, and Lake gave you a lot of credit for having the idea to do these real deep dives, and you don't regret it at all, do you? It's been a lot of fun, hasn't it?
No, it's more so a selfish reason why I wanted to do that type of episode, because I wanted to know personally where did we come from and where are we heading, and if you don't know those things, you kind of take it for granted,
You do, man. Hey, listen, I remember, and I'll talk to William about this here shortly, but I remember when my son and I, when he was young, he's in his early 30s now. But I remember when he was 7, 8 years old, we were hunting down in, up in northern Harrison County, southern Stone County. And we had hunt after hunt after hunt after hunt after hunt where we never saw a deer. And when we finally did see a deer, it was such a big deal. But Jourdan looks back on that and says, man, I remember those days. And now, now you go hunting in some of those areas and you can be selective. I mean, it's amazing. That's a hell of a story that Mississippi has as it relates to what we've done to bring the white-tailed deer population back. I mean, it's just a great story, isn't it?
Absolutely, all the way around. Deer, turkeys. I mean, they've all had an impact and an awesome conservation story about bringing them back from. I mean, let's face it, it's might near extinction. It was pretty dang close. So, heck of a props to the Department of Wildlife for doing what they need to do and having the forefront and seeing in the future, okay, we got to do something here and make a difference.
I say this a lot, but we're so lucky to have somebody like William McKinley, who's worked his way up through the deer program and now head of the deer program at a time when now we've got to work harder to get the population down. And I mean, for a lot of reasons. One is we just need to get it down. We can get to unhealthy levels. We can have more encounters with cars, et cetera, et cetera. But the other reason is CWD, and it helps us manage CWD. We don't have a cure for CWD, chronic wasting disease. But what we know is that if we can slow down the prevalence, that's really one of the most important goals that we can have, and give science a chance to really catch up. But, who would have thought, 20, 30 years ago that we'd be talking about having a deer population problem today?
Yep. That's definitely made a full circle. For sure, it's good to see. It's fun for my job too, because I love managing for them. So,
hey, so it's interesting. I followed you. You heard what I said at the beginning. You're doing a little bit of everything. You're obviously in real estate. You're going into a piece of property and seeing sort of the raw potential of it, and then working to improve it, whether it be for deer habitat or ducks or turkey. You're involved in all of that. But again, I mentioned I was wearing orange today. We can't put safety first enough. It's so easy to drop your guard, isn't it, Jourdan?
Yeah. So my background, I actually started as a guide, about 10 or 12 years ago. And I learned very quick, not everybody hunts like I do and actually, pays attention to where their gun's pointed and what they're doing as far as climbing in the stand. And there's a lot of people out there that are very unsafe. I learned very fast. So I learned through that, when you're around people, you need to be cognizant of what they're doing just as much as you are too. And safety is always number one, because it only takes one time and your life changes forever.
Literally forever. I mean, and listen, sitting in this seat over the past several years and getting the notes from people, oftentimes we'll hear the stories of when death or severe injury occurs. What we don't hear enough about are the close calls and how many close calls actually happen across Mississippi. That's not the kind of thing that goes into a report. But hey, I'll get your response to that on the other side. We're visiting with Jourdan Blissett. We're actually talking about safety. We're going to talk about more than that when we get back, but we'll pick up right after this break with finishing off this part of the conversation. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors from the Open Season Properties studio. Listen, Open Season Properties is a full-service real estate company with a team approach philosophy that ensures your needs are the highest priority, whether it's rural land sales, residential, or commercial properties. Open Season Properties markets and sells real estate in Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. And they're dedicated to the development of long-term client relationships and unwavering commitment to service. Go to openseasonproperties.com to learn more. We're just thrilled to have them as a studio sponsor. Now, let's get back over to my friend Jourdan Blissett. We were talking about safety, and I mentioned the close calls. I'll just mention a couple to you real quick. One is where a gun goes off and goes through a couple of walls. Somebody just unloading a gun in a mud room, and a piece of one of the bullets lodged in a guy's thigh. Now that was not a close call, but it could have been just devastating. I got this note from this guy. He killed a nice deer. He was by himself, and he went to go get so he shoots once. He chambers another bullet. And he's really excited, and he does. The deer's laying there. He doesn't need to shoot again. Puts the gun on his shoulder. Now, keep in mind, he forgot to put the safety on. Puts the gun on his shoulder. He goes to get his four-wheeler. So he walks over to get his four-wheeler, which is probably 300 or 400 yards away. So he had a good long walk. He gets to the four-wheeler. As he's taking his gun off his shoulder, he just barely brushes the trigger, and the gun goes off. And it goes off into, nowhere, goes into the woods. Nobody else is there, but it's scared him to death. And he said, man, what if my grandson would have been with me, or a friend of mine would have been with me? Because, the gun was at about head level when it went off. That's just so scary to hear those kind of stories. I could tell more, but we don't hear about those. One where a guy put a gun in the back of his truck. A loaded gun in the back of his truck, and it just shifted in the back of his truck, and it went off, and it blew a hole in the side of his truck. What if somebody had been standing outside the truck?
It can happen just like that. Just so fast. And also deer stands, that happens all the time. And I personally have experience with it too. Brad and I were hunting. It's been 3 or 4 years ago now, and we were trying a new spot out, had our climbers, and got in this thicket and climbed up a tree to see if we could see, to be able to film and hunt there. Got up there, realized it was too thick. So we were like, okay, let's go try to find another spot. We were in a hurry because afternoon hunt. So we're trying to get set up. And I get to about 6 foot off the ground and taking my safety harness off and just going down the tree in my climber. And all of a sudden the climber breaks, the top of it comes undone, and I go out backwards. Thankfully, I wasn't very high off the ground, but knocked the breath out of me, banged me up, just being 5 or 6 foot off the ground. And heck, I couldn't hardly walk for a week after just that. So,
it's
usually happens because you're in a hurry.
And you know what, buddy? It doesn't take much energy to put it. Safety straps today there's so many different kinds. They're not super expensive. Just put them on. Even if you're going to go do a ladder stand, put them on.
Yeah, and I had one on, but I had taken it off because I was, foot off the ground.
Listen, I was with my son Jordan, and he was putting up some bow stands, and the process of putting those stands up, man. It's dangerous if you're not strapped in,
Mm-hmm.
And he's really good about not being unstrapped. But there's this like one moment when you have to undo it for a second and readjust it. And so the next day, Jordan said, "Man, my arms are really hurting today." I said, "Why do you think that is?" He said, "Because I was holding on so tight when I redid that safety strap."
Yeah.
I mean, just really anal about it. I mean, that's the way you have to be, man, because you up in that tree and you're in the process of putting that stand up there. Maybe you're going up to see if a stand is still secure or whether it needs new straps. So I wouldn't even put new straps on every year. I mean, why would you even take a chance? Just put 2 or 3 straps on. What's wrong with that, Jordan?
That's the least expensive part of hunting is the ratchet straps.
It is, man. We just double up on them, man. Just leave the one there from last year and put another one on it. You know, put 2 more on it. Yeah. But, you know, I tell you, Hank Parker, I saw where he fell from a stand recently. And he was, you know, in the process of putting one up and fell. And thank God he didn't have any serious injuries. But he came on and did a video about it and talked about how sore he was and about the process. I think they helicoptered him out of there. He thought it was really, really serious. Again, you drop your guard for 1 minute and it can change your life forever, man. I mean, that's the way you said it just a few minutes ago. That's the way people need to think about it. So if you lease land or own land, you got people on your land, don't assume that they're doing things the way they need to be done. Look after them. Yep. Like one of the things we say is always look at your friend's gun. Always look at your guest's gun. If they don't have it opened, I mean, we want to be able to see if there's bullets in there. There can be no closed breeches anywhere near us. Always the breeches are going to be open. And if the breeches are not open, get the gun, open the breech, and then let me know that somebody came in with a situation where they had a closed breech. I can't do anything about it if I don't know about it. And people just, it's not that they're doing it intentionally, they just forget to do it. But these are the kind, looking out for each other, assuming when you're taught to defensive drive, you're taught to assume when you're on a 2-way road and somebody's coming towards you, you should assume that person's about to hit you head on. You should always think that way. Same thing's true when you got people around you hunting. When you take that point of view, you can ultimately save lives, can't you, Jordan?
No doubt about it. Just always be conscious of other people's actions along with yours, you know, just always be watching and paying attention to it. So they may not mean 90% of these are probably mistakes, you know.
You know, I go back and my son sent me some old YouTube videos from the Primos TV show, Truth About Hunting. And those are still staples, man. They're still, I mean, we'll put them on a loop at the hunting camp, just let them play on a loop.
Yep.
But some of the funnest videos, you're not shooting anything. Some of the funnest videos are when you guys are just together, enjoying each other's company or getting ready for the season. The social aspect of deer hunting is such a cool part of the overall experience, isn't it?
It is. I mean, the whole being around your friends and cutting up and janking on each other. I mean, that I enjoy that part of it more than I do the actual going hunting. That's talking about the hunt more so than the hunting part of it. I mean, I love all of it, but it's definitely not the same if you're doing it by yourself.
No, it really isn't, man. There's some people that I hunt with, they're just cool going up to the camp by themselves and going hunting by themselves. And first of all, I don't like it when they do that, just because it's always better to have more than one person around, obviously for safety reasons. But the other is, I'm enjoying the cooking. You know, I'm enjoying, you know, the mornings when everybody's sitting around together drinking coffee, or the evening before deciding where you're going to go hunt. That's all part of the experience. And I tell you more, one of the things is for sure, as I get older, I love having kids in the camp, because then you can see it through their eyes. And when I have grandkids or friends of mine's kids, to me, that's the most exciting. That's fun, isn't it?
Yes, sir. It really is. I mean, I had that. I think it's a big reason what I'm doing with my life today and not something else is the experiences I had as a growing up in a hunting camp, you know, that molded me to who I am today, a lot of it.
So have you guys been traveling?
Yeah, I went on an elk hunt back in early September, and I mean, it was beautiful out west and enjoyed the scenery, but that was about all we had out of the hunting experience. Didn't come home with any meat, but that's why they call it hunting, I guess, you know. So
you walked how many miles up and down?
Man, I don't know. Not a ton because it was open country, so we were able to scout from afar on high points. So, man, maybe 3 or 4 miles a day. Nothing extensive. And I've been working on a project up in Arkansas, up in the Delta up there. So I've been going back and forth up there about once or twice a week here the last month and a half. So been on the road a pretty good bit.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing it. That's where I'm seeing those pictures posted from. You're doing extensive work up there, aren't you?
Yes, it's a big place, a bunch of rice country, but it's 500 acres of timber on it, and we are in the process of developing it into a true green tree reservoir. So it's a really extensive variety of willow oak and swamp chestnut and nut-all oaks on the place. So it's going to be really, really good once we're finished with it.
Yeah, that's fun to go in when you see the potential of something like that and go in there and really maximize it. It sounds like it's in a good spot too.
Yes, it's going to be. I mean, we had plans on it being, one of the staple places you hear about in Arkansas over the next 4 to 5 years. So I think it will be.
Well, listen, congratulations on your work in real estate and development. Congratulations on the Speak the Language podcast, man. I'm proud of you guys.
Man, I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you having me on to chit chat a little bit about it. And everybody out there that's finna start hunting tomorrow, think about being safe and not getting in a hurry and taking your time and going through all the steps.
Yeah, no doubt. Always put safety first. This has been Jourdan Blissett. Hey, when we come back, William McKinley will be joining me. We'll see you after this break.